Hey guys, Brian delivers you the goods here. If you're wondering what's right by me, it's my sister's cat, Titan, because he's a sweetheart, of course. So yeah, he's a sweetie. He's a ginger cat, mostly. Basically, I'm returning to you for a worst albums of 2023 so far video. I haven't really gotten to this list for the so far list, because I've just been mostly catching up on music. Movie-wise, it might take a little bit to get to the movies. Because basically, yeah, that's my sister's cat right there, just so you know. But yeah, sorry for moving the laptop. It's just going to take a little bit to get to the worst movies and all that stuff. It's because I'm still catching up on the April releases. I'm almost done with April releases. I'm just trying to get caught up. So it's going to take a little time to get there. But with that being said, I'm going to list the 15 albums, which there are 15 on this list, from 1 to 15. I'm not doing it 15 to 1 until the end of the year. So that would be a November video for the official one. And I'll let you know my thoughts on this topic I want to talk about. So let's dive into the worst albums of 2023 so far. Now, the first album I listened to this year that was one of the worst albums was Mod Sun, God Save the Teen. Oh my god, this album was bad. I mean, vocally, I think he had it down a bit, but honestly, it's just the lyrics and just how he's singing it some of the time don't execute too well with this album. There were some tracks like Drive and other tracks on this album, Eyelids. It just sounded too cringy, honestly, and honestly, the dude's a fucking idiot in real life, too, from what I've gathered. But basically, Mod Sun, God Save the Teen made it at my number one spot. Not number one, but it's the first one on the list that I mentioned. It's not the worst album of the year, but there are other albums that could potentially be the worst album of the year. This is just a so far list, just so you know, because I haven't gotten one out to you guys sooner. I've just been so busy with work and other reviews and all that, so I haven't had a lot of free time to do the videos I want to do. So Mod Sun, God Save the Teen was the first album I mentioned on this list. Second one is Suicide Silence, Remember You Must Die. Another head shaker. I mean, deathcore is... I don't hate deathcore, but this is cringy deathcore, in my honest opinion. Not good deathcore. Like, the lyrics are just too juvenile and just, basically, this album didn't even... I wasn't feeling for. I was hating this album so much with how it sounded. And I heard the whole thing and I was like, fuck this album. So pretty much Remember You Must Die is a pretty bad album, if I'm being honest, in my honest opinion. I know if anyone that likes Suicide Silence, that's fine, to each his own, but me personally, they can go fuck themselves. Because I will not listen to another album of theirs. I've heard my fair share with them. So, sorry to be nasty here, but that's the fucking truth. Their album was garbage. That's the end of this topic. So, pretty much Suicide Silence, Remember You Must Die was one of the worst albums that I heard this year. Then comes number 3, Lana Del Rey, Did You Know That There's a Tunnel Under Ocean Boulevard? Oh, how we did not know. And how we do not care. Honestly, because your albums are so fucking boring. They're bland. They don't... there's nothing interesting with the albums. They just sound so lame and lazy with how you're singing. You're like, did you know that there's a tunnel under Ocean Boulevard? Kind of shit. She just sounds so monotone when she's singing it, and not even putting enough vocal effort into the songs she's making from this album. She's just sounding lazy and dull with her vocals, so fuck this artist. I'm fucking done with Lana Del Rey. It's one of the worst albums this year. I think I gave it a 2.5 out of 10, if I remember reviewing it, because I really hated this album. Probably right now one of the worst albums of the year so far. So we'll just see what other album's going to be the worst. Which I know Nicki Minaj has an album coming out in November, which you'll see a review for that, but might not be a good one. Just letting you know. I kind of have a prediction that I'm going to really hate it. So, 3 is Lana Del Rey, Did You Know That There's a Tunnel Under Ocean Boulevard? Number 4 spot is Owl City, Coco Moon. This one is just cringy. Like, Adam Young is not even trying hard enough. I know with this album, he wanted to do something different, and like I said, to each his own. If they like this album, more power to you. If some people like the Owl City Coco Moon, that is your opinion. I don't agree, because I don't like this album, but hey, all we can do is respect one another's opinion at the end of the day. If you don't like this worst albums list that I put on there, then by all means dislike, say what you gotta say, and be done with it. So basically, Owl City Coco Moon is pretty bad album. I listened through to the whole thing. It was very long for an album of Owl City. It wasn't as long as Cinematic, but I can tell you it was long. So at number 4 was Owl City Coco Moon. And give me 1 second, guys. Gotta pause the video. Sorry about that, guys. My sister's cat wanted out of my room. So that's another thing that gets in the way some of the time. But hey, it's fine. I'm not really that pissed about it. Next album I wanted to mention is number 5 spot, Melanie Martinez, or Felony Martinez, if I'm being honest, because Brad Taste in Music mentioned that in one of his streams, which shout out goes to him. He's a good YouTuber. I may not agree with every opinion he has for some music, because I see a lot of negative criticism about it. But hey, to each his own. I don't hate his videos. It's pretty good YouTuber, in my honest opinion. Just we differentiate with some of our opinions. So Melanie Martinez, I can agree with him on this, is a piece of shit. And her album Portals was a piece of shit. It wasn't very good. Whatever that song was, Psychology or whatever the fuck it was, that song was annoying. Honestly, she got in trouble and was accused of raping a transgender person, and there was a rape allegation about her, and she's just covering it up just to make herself look good and not ruin her rep. Which, in fact, I looked at the article, by the way, bitch, and you're fucking guilty in my eyes. So don't try to cover that shit up, because you know you're going to fucking jail, in my honest opinion. You shouldn't even be making music anymore, because this album was hot garbage. This is the point. Because I used to like Melanie Martinez until I found out this shit. And this shit is awful. This happened maybe after the K-12 album or around that time, because she is a weird fucking artist, in my honest opinion. But I don't like her music, if I'm being honest. So, this album is the definition of bad and cringe. So, number 5 spot, Melanie Martinez, Portals. Number 6 is Jack Harlow with Jackman. This album just didn't do it for me. I just was not really feeling for it. His raps sounded pretty bad and just nothing interesting to offer with the table with these songs. It's a short album, I can tell you that, but not a good short album. So number 6 is Jack Harlow, Jackman. There's some songs I may have had my hits and misses with, but I wasn't a fan of this album. I can tell you that. The number 7 spot is Avenged Sevenfold, Life is But a Dream. One of the worst albums this year, in my honest opinion. Not the worst, but it is a contender for hopefully being worst album, but I think Lana Del Rey might make that spot, if I'm being honest. This album was just the epitome of bad. Like, the song Nobody was just so boring. M. Shadows' vocals didn't sound good. Like, his vocals are phoned out in this whole album. It's just not very good. I mean, Cosmic had something interesting going for it with the experimentation, which, sure, the experimentation I don't hate them on, but the execution is the problem with this album. These songs don't even sync well with each other. They're just mixed in and not in a good way. There was the We Love You song. That was the last single we got, and that was a bad song. It was worse than Nobody. I can tell you that. The More Power, More Pace lyric, I just don't fucking like. Honestly, the melody changes a lot, and not in a good way, in my honest opinion. So at number 7 is Avenged Sevenfold, Life is But a Dream. Fuck this album. In my honest opinion, it probably will be at the lowest list of the worst albums of 2023 official video by the end of the year, but it's not a good album. I can tell you that. Number 8 is Janelle Monáe, The Age of Pressure. I think this album was disappointing, honestly. There were some tracks that I don't connect with on this album, but for what it went for, I'm just, no, can't really feel for these tracks, if I'm being honest. So, yeah, I don't really have much to talk about with this album other than the fact that I did listen to it, wasn't a fan of it, and there was maybe 1 or 2 tracks that kind of brought the rating down. So, number 8 is Janelle Monáe with The Age of Pressure. If I said The Art of Pressure, my mistake, it's The Age of Pressure. It just wasn't good. Number 9 is Lil Uzi Vert with Pink Tape. This album just didn't do it for me. It is really bad, in my honest opinion. Probably another one of the worst contenders for worst album of the year so far. But who knows? We'll just see how it holds up the next 2-3 months. Because I'm not doing that video till I think it's in November sometime. So definitely stay tuned for that official worst albums of 2023 video. So yeah, there was a few rock tracks. Like, he did a Chop Suey cover, Lil Uzi Vert did. It was bad. I mean, there were some moments I thought was okay, but it still was bad, if I'm being honest. Not the best cover. Even Serge Tankian from System of a Down didn't like it, from what I heard. That's the info I got, saying he didn't like it. So, pretty much, this album just had some cringy songs and just some mumble rap cringy songs that don't really execute too well. So, this album can go fuck itself. So, number 9 is Lil Uzi Vert with Pink Tape. I'll give him this on this one. The Werewolf song with Bring Me the Horizon was pretty good. But other than that, the rest of the tracks don't really connect with me. They're just hit or miss. Most of them misses. Number 10 is Group Love with I Want It All Right Now. This one was bad. I just don't really care for it. Hello was one of the worst singles to come out for this album announcement a few months ago. And I Want It All Right Now, I think it's All, if I'm being honest, is what the song name is. I think that song had something to offer because of what it was sounding like, but the Hannah vocalist, Lady Hannah in the band, her vocals sound bad, and Christian's vocals are just iffy. They were fine at the beginning, but then they just tried screaming at the end of the track, and that was the biggest problem, and almost the biggest flop for this song. Mostly the bridge part was the biggest flop, but every other track just doesn't really resonate in a good way with me. So, number 10 is Group Love with I Want It All Right Now. Number 11 is Post Malone with Austin. I just reviewed this album the other day. I think it was yesterday or the other day. Basically, definitely go check out that review. I know a lot of people don't like my review and my take on it. It's not that I'm hating the artist for the sound he's going for with his music. The only critique I have with the album is the laziness and the production and just his whiny vocals. It's just not really resonating with me. He's not putting a lot of effort into this album, and it just sounds very dull and disappointing. So I don't really want to mention any of the songs. I've heard Chemical, that one wasn't my go-to kind of song. But there were some other tracks that didn't really do very well, like Morning and other songs. So, number 11 is Post Malone with Austin. Then comes Depeche Mode, Memento Mori. It's not that I hated this album, I just was disappointed with how the final product sounded. I was very bored with it. I thought it was going to be a okay album as I listened to it, but I found a few tracks, maybe one or two tracks, to be very disappointing with the final product of the album that made the album flow, but that one was a disconnect. This one was a little bit of a disconnect and just plain and boring. So, 12 is Depeche Mode with Memento Mori. Then comes Ray Shremmerd with Shrem for Life. This one was disappointing. There were some tracks that were doing alright, but thank God they didn't have Community Dick on there. That song was horrible, and I'm glad they didn't put it on the album. They put Torpedo on the album, which was hit or miss. Not the best song, but it's something. I think it was one of the worst tracks and disappointing. But the final track for the Shrem for Life had something going for it in a good way, and it wasn't a bad song. But there are some other tracks that are hit and misses. But overall, final product, I was disappointed with this Ray Shremmerd Shrem for Life album. So that's my number 13 spot for that one, for the so far list. And the last two, and that's going to be it for this video. Carly Rae Jepsen, The Loveliest Time, didn't like her vocals. It sounded too girlish and cringy and cheesy is the words I'm trying to say. Sorry for pausing and thinking of the word to say. It was just cringy and cheesy and like bubblegum pop shit. And there's some bubblegum pop I don't mind, but you gotta make sure it executes in a good way. This didn't execute too well because her vocals were very hit or miss in some songs. There's some other tracks that are fine on this album, but final products was very bad. So pretty much Loveliest Time was a letdown, and definitely go check out my review for it. I did it, I think, yesterday morning or something like that. So pretty much that's my number 14 spot. And finally, we get to the last spot, which is Travis Scott, Utopia. This was a bad album. There are a couple tracks, maybe 5 or 6 songs that ruined the album, but some of the other tracks were average, okay to decent and solid, but there wasn't one song that was a 5 out of 5 for me. K-pop wasn't terrible, it was decent, but not anything I'm gonna be blown away by. But the last 3 songs were interesting. I mean, this album had something going for it. There's a little bit of good qualities to it, but there are some very bad qualities to it too, with some of the way like Topia Twins sounded. It was horrible. One of the worst songs off that album. Fiend is not very good. Meltdown was a diss track to Timothée Chalamet, the guy that's going to be playing Willy Wonka and then the new Dune Part 2 movie this year. So he's going to have a busy end of the year for those movies. Basically, I think Travis Scott, like I said in that review, he was acting like a bitch, dissing Timothée Chalamet. I don't know, that dude, and he's the same motherfucker that caused that San Antonio tragedy, and people died at that concert of his over a fucking song that he got the crowd riled up on. So he chose to not stop it and not tell the audience to let the people get up. He didn't do that. He just let them die, which is pretty fucked up. So with that being said, Travis Scott Utopia is a pretty bad album. And yeah, if you saw my rating for it, definitely go check out my review. I uploaded it last night. And that is going to be it for the worst albums of 2023 so far. I know it's a long video, but I had to mention what I wanted to talk about because I got to end this video right about now. So, that being said, guys, thank you guys for watching.